Hey, Alex.
Hi, Stephanie. How are you?
I'm good. It's so good to be doing this with you. It's fun for me that Jasmine happens to be on a field trip with her son today. So she's like, hey, will you fill in on LinkedIn Live? Of course. But then separately, it's you, which just makes me so happy. So, for everybody watching, Alex is head of sales over at Thynk. She is also, well, Thynk is a partner of Affixify, but more importantly and bigger, Alex and I kind of came together several years ago when Digital Alchemy was purchased by TravelClick. Immediately hit it off, have been friends ever since. So it's really exciting that we get to do this industry chat together. That it happened to be you whenever Jasmine was like, hey, I got to go out of the office to spend time with her family. So I'm very, very excited to chat
I
with
was
you
thrilled.
today.
Yes.
I know, it's exciting. So I know that we have a topic that we wanted to steer through about, CRM systems. And when you brought that to me as a topic that you want to discuss, I instantly got excited because obviously we both have a lot of background here. And it really started this exciting conversation between the two of us about
Yeah.
CRM platforms, but not just that, like the difference of a type of CRM that you would need dependent on your audience. I don't know if you watched it, but the Modern Hotelier interviewed Heather from Ascent 360 while they were at
Mm.
BITAC, and she spoke as well to a CDP versus a CRM, the
hmm
importance of the B2B versus B2C. And so I really reflected on that whenever we had our pre-call about CRM in general. So I know this is something you're really passionate about. Why don't you kind of tell me a little bit about what sparked it, what really got you excited, and in your own business, why it's so important about a CRM?
No, thanks. And actually, it starts with where we started in our careers,
It's true.
crossing paths, which is I was hired at TravelClick to sell their B2C CRM for email marketing and automation and surveys and really guest personalization.
Hmm.
We acquired Digital Alchemy to take you guys off the market. But that's the B2C side. And, when Amadeus acquired TravelClick, they had already acquired Delphi, which is a B2B uh,
Right.
solution. And we'll talk a bit about this more. But when I joined Think, which is a B2B focused CRM, but can really blend and be your true single source of truth. Then we'll talk about that a bit more too. But uh, I have come across over and over again the misunderstanding of what a CRM is to a property and to above property. And going back to your CDP point, that's a new
Hmm.
buzzword. What's the difference? And so, even prepping for this, all I did was just do a Google search, hospitality CRM. And so the first one that comes up, and it's paid, it's sponsored, is a CRM I had not heard of that I went into their integrations and they say, hospitality on their little, click to zero hospitality technology integrations.
Interesting.
So we've got that on top of all of this too. We've
Yeah.
got CRMs trying to enter into our space. Obviously, Salesforce, uh, spells into
HubSpot.
the hospitality space when
Yep.
you really maximize the value of what you can do with Salesforce Marketing Cloud. It's excellent. Don't get me wrong. It's expensive too, and you have to, want to be able to invest in it. Think's built on Salesforce,
Hmm.
and we can natively integrate with Salesforce Marketing Cloud. But the irony is Salesforce Marketing Cloud is in its own CRM. You buy Sales Cloud with that, or Think as an alternative. But that's a big piece of it, and that connects the B2B and B2C worlds. But there's Revenate, there's Sendine, there's
Hmm.
Navis, and others that are out there as a B2C solution specific for hospitality in the CRM space. And we really should now we're just duplicating efforts with the same guest data. And how does a sales team know, or a marketing team know, that the person that just booked the hotel was someone who actually came in on a group and they're coming back as leisure, or vice versa? I just got an inbound, and actually this person came and stayed with us a month ago, and now they want to have their wedding there. I should know that without having to go to another system.
It's true. And, the guest has really taken this, and we have these expectations now. I've talked about this before, right? I expect that you know this about me. I expect that you
Yeah.
understand everything there is to know about Stephanie. You should have looked at my social media profiles. You should know
Yeah.
how dear and sweet Cleo is to me, right? You should know these things as I'm walking onto your property, as I'm interacting with your team. And then to your point, if I do come back as a different guest type from leisure to business as part of a group, going to high tech, whatever it is, I'm still Stephanie the person. So how
Correct.
do you make sure that you understand that about me and that you have my preferences fulfilled? Like, there's so many different avenues that a CRM can go down. And I think your point about integrations is key. The data sources have to funnel in because we're collecting data from so many places. It all needs to come together in a way that really helps the hotel team understand that person, but as well the level of opportunity that comes with that person.
Well, so what's interesting, you saying this, so I then Googled, why do we have confusion between these two? And actually, to your point, what Google's AI assistant gave me, was spot on. We use them for different purposes. You need to sell your space on the B2C side and manage negotiated contracts and other partnerships when it comes to travel agents, and and actually the B2C side, typically you're connecting your PMS, right?
Yep.
And you do
At a
have
minimum.
reservations coming through, but and some of them have blown out and have chat now connected and all of that, which is great, but it's duplicative to the B2B side. And I would say 3%, 5% maybe, of properties out there have these connected correctly right now. And actually know one view of the guest, because the marketing for B2B is different than B2C. I can't tell
Absolutely.
you how many times I get like a B2B marketing email and I'm like, why me?
Yeah. I
I
mean,
mean,
we could
and just
go.
why this message? And it's just a blast. And
Yes.
it's because it's not connected. And that's a big factor. And so when you're looking at technology, because of these significant overlaps with what you adopt, it's creating a chaos and very hard challenge for our industry, bringing one source of truth together. So you really need to, when you're looking at a CRM solution, look at a platform that's very open and that allows you to connect or has the capacity to support you in connecting to other partners or vendors that you're using, because they've built, middleware or have the ability to expand integrations quickly. That's something we've done. We've built our own middleware to be able to do that. Because we're built on Salesforce, we know we've got to do stuff outside of Salesforce too, though.
Absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
think that's a big factor when looking at all of this, that again goes back to, okay, well, then do I need a CDP? Or do I just focus on the CRM right now? Because the PMS has always been the single source of truth for the longest time. And with too many technologies I mean, now you've got door locks connected to someone, you've got TV connected to someone, you've all these other solutions, and your AI. You can't use AI without clean data.
That is the key too. I think we're all intrigued by AI. And I have a question for you about your AI. But
Yes,
anyway,
please.
we're all intrigued by it. Fundamentally, though, it only works if what it is given is accurate and thorough, in my mind. I
Exactly.
could be totally wrong, but that's how I envision it, right? So, I use ChatGPT. Everybody uses ChatGPT. I tend to rewrite ChatGPT quite a bit because I know that Google doesn't love ChatGPT. I know that ChatGPT doesn't sound like me. I think that what I use it for is to say, hey, I have these 4 partners of Affixify, and I want to build something around them that, tailors it from a marketing educational standpoint for our industry to understand their perks and their benefits and really why they should interact with these types of companies that we have in our space. Tell me a theme about them. Give me some information to where I'm not reading 4 different websites. I can just have ChatGPT give me the information. I can run with it. You use ChatGPT, right?
Of course.
What's your persona for ChatGPT? Mine is, because we're a female founded company, she's a female. She's a very strong voice. She's very agreeable. I love that about her. She just does whatever I want her to do. What's your persona?
You know, I hadn't thought about it until now, but I mean, it has to be female because I am, right? And that's the lens I see the world in.
Maybe.
Make no mistake, I'm a guy's girl at times too. I mean, that's just something about me. And maybe that's partly just being in sales, for the majority of my career. But as I started to actually think about that, because you briefly asked me about this yesterday, and I was like, gosh, I'd never thought about this. What I did end up kind of uncovering, which leads to what you were just talking about, which is using it to actually define personas of conversations you're about to enter into. So going back to your point, you should really know everything about me. And so even on the sales side in hotels, right? I think the teams that are going to win are using tools like this to get to know the person they're trying to win the business with.
I would hope so. Yeah.
Exactly. But you can actually use it, ChatGPT or another tool, to actually define personas around who you're talking to or understand the company a little bit better too. That can really help because hotels are selling to companies. They're not typically selling to the hotel. So and that's not their bread and butter, right? So they need to learn. And I think it's a really cool use case when you're on the sales side.
Yeah, and it's definitely a time saver because,
Huge.
envision the days
Yeah.
before this when we were doing all of this research or an intern was or whatever the case, we were spending time reading all these sites, getting to know our customer, and it was very labor intensive. And now being able to leverage AI to do some of that for us is just a huge time saver. A question I have for you, which I did not talk to you about yesterday. So I'm going to kind of put you on a spot a little bit. When you have, we're talking about CRM, when you're exploring a CRM solution as a hotelier, what are the things that we need to make sure we're paying attention to? I know integrations obviously is huge.
Number one.
It's huge. How are you even going to get the data? Where's the data coming from? Is it accurate? How are we handling duplicate data? How are we keeping it clean? But what other things do we need to be looking out for? What are the gotcha moments?
Honestly, a big one is automation. So how can I reduce any manual efforts that are being, and to your point, I mean, I'm not saying this is an integration, it's one of our own, but every single lead that comes in should be digitalized and automatically put into your system. We just worked with Cvent to open their API so that you can respond from Thynk to Cvent, because that process was taking 45 minutes to an hour and a half for a small group. We watched it, and Cvent straight up says that 79% of the business is won by the first 3 to respond. So we were like, well, let's make this easier. We also have obviously Thynk Lead, and we can take an email and we use AI to convert it into an inquiry or lead in Thynk. I think that's vital to return that time, right? Because what we're talking about is, it's so much faster to do that research. But if you don't have the time because you're doing all this manual, entry, then it never happens. Unfortunately, personalization gets, dropped basically. Yeah. So I think that's a big one. I think when you can have automation for response, especially if you get something over the weekend, let them know you're working on it. I've heard a lot about not remembering cutoff dates and then losing attrition on business. So we can automate reminders on cutoff dates, collection of deposit, all of that, and send it. And I think having that seamlessly across the start to finish of running an event is vital. I think analytics are huge too. I don't think sales teams, when they're using it, get what they need. I think the revenue teams are getting it, and they're pulling a bunch of systems into one to look at this above property. But I'm talking I owe my manager or my director of sales my numbers, and I can't even give you what my production is on this account. That's something we do. We consume every PMS reservation so that you can see who's coming in transient on a Wednesday and doesn't have a negotiated contract, and you should get that in place. And I think that's an extremely important piece of the puzzle to enable all departments to see the same data too,
I
and
think
be able
that's
to
a
use it.
key is all departments. Get everyone involved in the process. It doesn't have to be siloed. Christine wanted to verify your stats. 79% of business is won by one of the first 3 respondents. Is that accurate?
Correct. Yeah, and I can send it
It's
to you. It's
amazing.
a CVent stat. Yeah. Speaking of stats, and not to change the subject, but I think technology adoption has been challenging for this industry because we compete with renovation costs. We compete with overhead of people and running your entire building. You compete with insurance going up, right? And for the longest time, we've had a situation where, we've been like, hotelier, take it on, run with it, but unfortunately creates messy data or data that can't be used, unfortunately, because it's not being done the same way. You're doing it one way, I'm doing it another.
Yeah.
And so, I came across 2 things I wanted to just quickly share on this with you. One is a quote from Valerie Parks. She's the Senior Director of Business Relationships at Choice. She said, "It's not the technology that's the problem. It's that you haven't thought through what your outcome is and what the process needs to be. Technology is never going to solve that if you don't figure out that." And I agree with her. And then I saw a stat this morning that Jasmine posted from Business Talent Group that companies who hire outside consultants are 22% faster to project completion and 30% higher for with their ROI compared to in-house efforts. And I wanted to say that because this is the reason that, first of all, I know Affixify just added consultants as part of this. And second, to Valerie's point, the way that Affixify asks you what you're trying to solve and then pairs you with the vendors, I think is brilliant.
Oh, thank you.
And
Thank you.
I think those speak volumes to exactly what you're trying to accomplish and what is necessary to accomplish this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I think, I've always sympathized with the hotelier. I've never been a hotelier, always on the vendor side, but I always thought about, our implementations of product. Thinking about a PMS install just sounds completely overwhelming. And I'm like, that's not even their total day job. They have to serve their guests. They have to run the hotel. They're given these projects as really something vital that needs to be done, but it takes so much time. And I do think that's where we have so much talent in our industry from the consultant side, and being able to leverage who we have to
yes,
help and move things along. But also, to your quote that you said, finding out the why. Like, what are you going to get from this? What is the movement that you need to take to get there? Why are you trying to implement this? What's the overall goal? I think we have a lot of really innovative tech in our space. And I think that if we just bought all of it, then what? How are we
I hear
going to
you.
use it? So we have to be able to identify that from the very beginning. And I think that in itself takes time and resources, but also could sometimes be really, really helpful if we brought in an outside source to really let us think through it and overcome our challenges and understand what they are.
100%.
Because when we're living in our own space, it's really hard to identify what's going on from a true challenge perspective, because we're just going. We move quickly. That's who we are now.
I talk to so many prospects that are like, I want this. I don't have the resources to
Totally.
implement it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, just start with one, start with a cluster and see if it works, and then bring a consultant in to support you then if it's really the right tech.
Yeah, I love that. So thinking about innovative tech, what are your favorite things that you're seeing now in the space?
All right, I'll give you 2 quickly because I know we're close to time. I think this is the duh effect, because it should have already been there, and it was developed because someone needed the solution, which is a wait list for booking engines. And it's the most amazing hot lead you could possibly get. That's ResiList doing that.
That's mine.
Well, they're amazing. And I
They
think
are.
it's brilliant and simple. And then the other one I will say is I came across Next Play Secure. If you don't have cybersecurity protection right now in this state, it could cost you a fortune. You might think you have the insurance, but you need to check. You very well could be actually null and voiding it with some small minor details.
It's so unfortunate. And it's such a heavy risk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So ResiList is also one that's been on my mind a lot lately. They're also a partner of Affixify. So if you're interested, you can use Affixify to shop and match with ResiList. I'm very intrigued by their go-to-market approach because I have been a victim of the booking engine telling me what I want isn't available. And I don't love being told that what I want is not available. So being able to be added automatically to this wait list and know that I'm going to be taken care of is huge.
And marketed to. You could maybe want to come another time.
Absolutely. Give me options. Just tell me what my choices are. And I think that that's a big deal. The other thing that I've been really intrigued by lately are the OTA recovery programs. There's a couple of them out there, but doing these audits on all of the OTA transactions, they're finding so much lost revenue because who's taking the time to do that? Bringing in a provider that can help with that, I think, is also such a big deal in the industry these days, just to make sure that we're getting all of our dollars. So I have a couple that I've become friends with, not listed on Affixify. If anybody's interested, I'm happy to, kind of give some introductions. But I think that it's so intriguing to watch all of these technologies come out because it really is exciting to see how our industry is shifting and all of the different options that are available for people now.
Totally. And actually, Christine just mentioned third-party masked emails are problematic. And I agree. And you and I dealt with a lot of that
Yeah, we did.
At TravelClick. So I couldn't agree more. And there's alternatives to email. Find the communication preference. And
it's so true. There's so many WhatsApp integrations now, and texting is a little bit more familiar in this space than it was 10 years ago. Like, there are a lot of choices. And I think it's really about connecting with the guests the way that they want to be talked to. And it's not necessarily always email these days.
No, I couldn't agree more.
So any last words before we end?
No, I thank you so much for having me on. I think this was a great, quick convo. If anyone has anything they want to reach out to me for after, questions, follow up on the stat, I can certainly get you this event quote, and I appreciate you having me. Thanks so much, Stephanie.
No, of course. I loved having you. It's so good to chat with you. I think, anytime you and I connect together, we can just go on and on about all of these things. And I know we'll be seeing each other at High Tech. So that's really exciting. Aren't you also celebrating a birthday during High Tech?
Oh, geez. Yes, I am. It might be the 4-0.
It might be the 4-0. Well, happy early birthday. Everybody's going to give you a little extra love that week.
Thank you, Stephanie. I look forward to seeing you. And heck, we're problem solvers. So that's a piece of this too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Talk to you
Awesome.
soon.
Thanks.
Bye.
Alex.
Thanks, everyone.